Hi, and welcome to my guide to Final Fantasy XIV's unique content called the Masked Carnival. This will continue from my last video with the next 3 trials, so let's get started. Before we get into it, I do want to mention one combo that I will bring up in some of these fights. The Ultra Vibration combo is simply using Hydro Pull for multiple enemies, though it's not necessary if you only have one target. Then use Ram's Voice to freeze, then Ultra Vibration to finish them off. With that said, let's get into our first trial, number 26, Papa Mia. This is a 2-act trial facing you off against an Arena Mirror Knight in Act 1, then Papa Humbubba in Act 2. So for Act 1, there isn't much to mention except for a few mechanics. The Mirror Knight will cast Alternate Plumage, which gives it an extremely high defense buff, dropping your attack damage by at least 95%. Use Eerie Soundwave to remove this. Next, it will cast Caber Toss. This attack is lethal if it goes off, so make sure to interrupt it as soon as you can. Besides these 2 attacks, just dodge the area of effect attacks it does, and that's pretty much it. For Act 2, Papa Humbubba starts by casting Raw Instinct, giving him a buff that guarantees every attack he does is critical damage. Like you did with the Mirror Knight on the last act, remove this with Eerie Soundwave. It's not too much of a big deal if he has this buff, but it's extra damage you have to heal through. Next, he will cast Void Thunder 2, a small area of effect attack that will leave a cloud in the air. The clouds themselves will occasionally move to your current position and do a Lightning Strike, which is an area of effect that is much larger than the Void Thunder 2. It hits hard and leaves behind a damage over time debuff on you if it does hit. Because of this, you will want to keep an eye on the clouds. When the clouds move, you move away. It's as simple as that. There will usually be 2 clouds on the field at once, but sometimes even 3 will show up, so be aware. When the clouds start forming, consider staying near the edge of the arena so that it's easier to deal with Humbubba's next mechanic. When you see an orange marker hovering over you, position yourself so that you can be knocked back safely away from the Thunder Field when he uses the ability Dad Joke. This hits kinda hard, so be ready to heal afterwards. The last thing he does is Void Thunder 3, which is a hard-hitting spell that leaves behind a damage over time debuff on you. Remove this quickly with Exuviation and then heal up. With all the mechanics out of the way, here's the spell loadout. For Aetheric Mimicry, I suggest Heal Stance because you're going to be taking quite a bit of damage throughout the fight. So for your spells, Palm Cure for healing and Exuviation to remove Void Thunder 3's debuff. For attacks, I use Planecracker for both acts since Papa Humbubba is weak to earth attacks. Bring along Eerie Soundwave to remove enemy buffs, and Flying Sardine to interrupt Caber Toss. Here's how the fight looks. Next up is number 27, Lock Up Your Snorters. This reintroduces a familiar enemy, Typhon. If you have yet to learn the spell Snort, you can learn it from him. This time Typhon has a ton more HP, so basic attacks will take a while to whittle him down. There is another method though to reducing his HP fast, but we'll get to that shortly. First off, in various phases, Typhon drops bombs and a Magitech explosive. The bombs explode in a small area, so your goal is to make sure they don't explode near the Magitech explosive. Failure to do so will cause it to explode, taking you down with it. There are 3 bomb patterns. The first one will be a ring of bombs near Typhon with the explosive near the outside. Typhon will use Snort to knock the bombs and you to the side of the arena. What you need to do is knock the bomb that's closest to the explosive away so it doesn't damage the explosive. For the second pattern, the explosive shows up near Typhon and the bombs are in a ring around the outside. Typhon will use Snort again to knock you into the bomb's explosions. Just run back to the center of the arena again and you're okay. Before I mention the third pattern, let me explain how to deal with the Magitech explosive. You'll use Protean Wave to push bombs where they need to go, but for the explosive itself, I use Water Cannon. Even though Protean Wave is stronger, there are 2 reasons why I use Water Cannon instead for the explosive. The first reason is you want to maintain enough distance from the explosive. While you're trying to burn it down, Typhon will occasionally pelt your position with a wide area of effect called Fireball. If this hits the explosive, it will prematurely detonate. The second reason is that you have to manually face toward the target to hit it with Protean Wave. With that said, you only have a short amount of time to take out the explosive before it detonates on its own. You'll know when it's close to detonating when it starts flashing. The third bomb pattern does not have an explosive, just 8 bombs. What I failed to mention earlier is that Typhon can be hurt by the bombs themselves, and by a lot too. So when the bombs appear, quickly run under Typhon and use Hydro Pull to pull the bombs under him. Quickly run out so you don't get blown up yourself. He may knock a few of the bombs away, so don't be too concerned if he does. For every bomb that does hit him, he will receive a damage over time debuff. So if you don't deal enough damage to take him out with this method, he will repeat the same 3 bomb patterns until you do. So for the spell loadout, for pushing bombs and raw damage against Typhon, use Protean Wave. For the explosive, use Water Cannon. And for the third phase of bombs, use Hydro Pull to gather the bombs under Typhon. Here's how the fight looks. And the last trial for this video is number 28, Dangerous When Dead. This fight pits you off against a summoner of undead minions, Durin. First thing Durin does is cast Doom Impending. When the cast finishes, you will receive both an Incurable and a Doom debuff. If your HP is full, then Doom will fall off, so be sure you're healed to full before it goes off and you'll be okay. The next thing to note is the ability March of the Draugr. This summons a number of undead minions to aid Durin in attacking you. There are 4 summon groups throughout the fight. I should note that these summons can be dealt with in 2 ways. First, they can all be frozen, except for one which I'll explain when we get there. Since they can be frozen, Ultra Vibration is also an option. Second, they are all undead, so Saintly Beam is your choice of damage. The Ram's Voice also can be used to hold the minions in place while you burn them down. So for the varied summons. The first set is a lot of undead serfs. One of them will grapple you, holding you in place until you defeat it. This particular minion cannot be frozen, but the rest can be. The second set is 4 undead soldiers standing in the cardinal corners of the arena. They will constantly be pelting you with fire 3s, so burn them down quickly. The third set is 4 undead warriors who start in the same places as the previous 4 undead soldiers. These 4 will use Butterfly Float to jump to your position and try to beat you down. If you're planning to use the Ultra Vibration combo on any set, this is the set I suggest. The last set is 2 undead Gravekeepers. They are slow, but they can hit really hard. Just burn them down just like the rest of them. Next up is Cackle. You should interrupt this, but if it goes off, it's not lethal, but hits really hard. Just heal up if it goes off. The next ability is Necrobane. This is an area of effect attack that leaves the zone on the ground. Entering this zone will cause you to take damage over time, but also prevents you from succumbing to instant death attacks. This usually is followed up by one of 2 abilities. First is Mega Death, a room-wide area of effect attack that also applies death, so go into the Necrobane zone on the ground to avoid a swift demise. After this cast finishes, quickly exit the zone to avoid taking too much damage. The other attack is Funeral Pyre. This is exactly the opposite of Mega Death. You'll want to stay out of the Necrobane zone as it will inflict death. Next thing to be aware of is Brainstorm. This will put a debuff on you with a particular arrow. Depending on the direction you're facing, you will be forced to run in that direction for a short time. This is important to know where you're running because Durin follows that up with Bill Ross' Squall. There is one open area on the field that is safe, so quickly run to the center of the arena and face the appropriate direction before your debuff counter reaches 0. If you did this correctly, you'll run right to the save spot. The only other thing Durin does is Hellblar Shriek. This is a room-wide area of effect attack, just heal up after it hits. So now that the mechanics are covered, let's go to the spell loadout. For Etheric Mimicry, I suggest Healer Stance for this fight. You'll be taking a lot of damage, so you'll want Palm Cure for your healing. For attacks, any attack of your choice, though I discourage fire spells as Durin resists them. You'll want Saintly Beam for the minions, though you can bring along with Ultra Vibration combo to freeze and quickly wipe out at least one set of minions. Then finally Flying Sardine to interrupt Cackle. Here's how the fight looks. I certainly hope this guide helped you along in completing this trial. With that said, farewell for now, see you in the next video, and as always, thanks for watching.